Hi guys, I'm going to show you something really cool, one of my favorite things that you can do within Transaction Desk and Authentisign, something called layouts. So a lot of you guys are familiar with Transaction Desk. Most of us use it for filling, and then Authentisign for signing of contracts. So something that a lot of people don't know about are the layouts. So the difference between a fillable form, right, when we create a transaction here and we choose our template, most of our GRAR forms, or all of our GRAR forms, are fillable. But when we choose our KW purchase packet, there's also documents that are required for us to sign, like the KW franchise, or maybe the seller disclosure, or some of the other documents that are just brokerage specific that aren't going to be fillable. So you guys are always having to drag and drop the signatures in versus the GRAR forms, which are really nice because Authentisign knows where to put those signatures and initials for your buyer or seller. So layouts lets us create kind of a roadmap for those documents, like the franchise, the seller disclosure, things like that that aren't going to be templated or fillable per se in Authentisign. So I'm going to show you guys first how to get to the layouts, the layout settings, because before we can apply a layout to, let's say, the KW franchise, we're going to need to build that roadmap for that document first. So to do that, you're going to come over into signings, and it's kind of a hidden spot here. So once you're in signings, here's all my tests. You're going to click this little arrow in the top right, and this little arrow in the top right is going to give us some additional settings within signings. So we're going to click into layouts, and here's some layouts that I've already created. So I had created some COVID layouts back when we were using COVID forms. You can see here's the franchise. I'm actually going to delete, and I'll show you guys how I did that. The inspection waiver is another really nice one to do a layout for, so you're not always having to remember to drag and drop things in, right? So let's go ahead and we will create a layout by clicking the add in the top right corner and giving it a name. So we will call this KW Franchise and ABA. That means Affiliated Business Arrangement Disclosure. We're all familiar with this form. So it wants me to choose the document to create the layout for. That means I've got to go find this document. If you guys aren't sure where to get the franchise from, because it's just usually in with your template, you can download the franchise from KW Rock Resources individually by just coming into the Contracts and Forms tab and then clicking into KW Forms here. And there is a folder dedicated to the franchise. So here it is right here. So I'm just going to download this, and then I'm going to drag it into my layout. So I've just downloaded it, and then I'm just popping it over here into my layout. So here's the 2-page document. And then what we're going to do is with the tools over here is we're going to start to assign where our buyer would have to sign. So I would actually create 2 layouts for this form. I would create a buyer version, and I would create a seller version, so that if I'm doing listing paperwork, I've got my layout for listings, and then I've got a layout when I'm writing up an offer for a buyer. That way, they're just automatically set up to have whichever party you represent signing. So we're going to take all the little actions over here and just start to drag them where they belong, right? So I know my buyer's going to need to sign here. I don't need the date, so I'm going to get rid of that. Buyer 2. And if you only have one buyer when you use this, when it comes time to putting it into your actual signing, and you only are working with one person, it is not going to assign both signatures. It's going to know based on how many contacts you add into the signing. All right, there's only one buyer, or there's 2. Initials are going up here. You will, of course, still have to enter in the text for address, phone number, email, because those things are going to change based on your client. Then you've also got your signature down here, which I really like to add in because we all forget to sign that. It's in a hidden spot. So we are selling agent 1. We'll stick our signature down there. We'll pop the date down here. Page 1 looks good. Page 2, I usually like to just pull in full name for buyer 1 and buyer 2 here at the top. Obviously, you'll be typing in the property address. We could also put the date up there. And then down here, just signing and dating for each buyer as well. So that's all it takes. This is building your layout, mapping where the signatures are going to go each time you use this form. I'm going to hit save at the top, back, and save. So now you can see that my KW franchise layout has been created on today, the 17th. So from here, what I'm going to do is we'll go test it. So let's say I am writing an offer and I'm ready to create the transaction and fill and sign my paperwork here. I gotta move my recording button so I can get back to the home screen. There we go. Okay. So we will hit add for a new transaction. We're just gonna call this 123 Main Street offer. My template, I will go ahead and choose the KW purchase packet. You guys can actually create your own templates as well. That's something that I'm going to do another video on, or feel free to ask me. So you can create your own templates, or you can use the KW templates that we've created for you. You can pull in your listing here, as we all know, or not your listing, but the listing that you're writing an offer on, right? I'm going to skip that for now, and I'm just adding myself as the selling agent so that I can get to the signing part here. So I'd go through, maybe I'm filling out my forms or adding my contacts in here. Let's go ahead, we'll add a couple contacts quick. We'll create a new one. And this is going to be a buyer, Ellen, my favorite buyer. And then we'll add a second buyer. And we'll call this buyer Chuck. I didn't put their emails in either, but of course you're going to need those if you're doing an electronic signing. Here's all of our forms, and then here's all of our documents. So here's my franchise. So let's say I've filled my forms out, I'm ready to pull them into a signing. I'm going to click over here into signings, click add. I will call this again 123 Main Street offer, and then I'm going to have to go in and pull my documents in. So let's say, obviously, I'd be pulling in everything that I need at this point in time, like the contract. Maybe I've got an escalation and so on and so forth. But let's just add the franchise in here so you guys can see how the layout works. All right. So, my signers over here. Add participants. Add from transaction. Here's Chuck and Ellen and myself. Okay, just mapping who's who here. Buyer 1, buyer 2, Chuck and Ellen. Assign signature blocks. Now, of course, all of my GRAR forms have been assigned with initials and signatures where they belong. But you're going to notice that it didn't on the franchise yet. So what you guys have to do is you have to actually assign the layout to the document. So over here, we've got a button called Layouts, Layout Options, and then we're applying a layout. So we're going to choose when we hit Apply Layout, it's saying, hey, here's 3 documents that you have in this signing. Which document do you need to assign a layout to? So we already have layouts for the contract and the escalation agreement because GRAR made them that way. They're fillable, but we do need to make our franchise fillable. Well, not fillable, but we do need to assign its signature blocks, right? So I'm really just choosing the document that I've already created the layout for, assigning the layout to it, and then hitting Assign Signature Layout. And that's a lot easier than going through and having to remember where to drag and drop every single time. So that's one example of using a layout. You could create a layout, again, for the inspection waiver, for any document that you are using frequently, and this might make your life a little easier. Let me know if you guys have any questions.